Spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off The Ball Podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we are in, what is this season? This is my 5th year covering the NBA. It has been an amazing journey, and I'm so excited to start another season covering everything in the NBA and everything basketball. So appreciate everyone who has been riding with me for these since COVID year, man. Doing this, so I'm really excited to get back on it and get into this NBA season. And on today's podcast, I got a special guest with me, NBA Twitter superstar. I gotta give him round of applause. You've seen him before on the show, my guy Brett. Brett, what's going on, my man?
It's not a lot, man. It's great to be back on, man. I remember how much fun we had last time, so it's about time we do this again, man. Looking forward to talking some hoops with you, bro.
Yes, sir. On today's podcast, we're going to be going in on the Western Conference. We're going to talk all things Western Conference, a lot of things shaking and baking out west, Brett. And I knew I had to get you on to talk about all things Western Conference. Let's dive into the big thing that just happened. The big trade. Before we get into all these teams, Karl-Anthony Towns traded to New York, Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. What was your reaction to that trade when you heard it?
I mean, I think the New York side of it was really like what I was most excited about initially. Like that whole first night when it broke, I'm just thinking about what the Knicks are going to look like now, what that starting five is going to look like, what Cat's ability to space the floor is going to do for that squad. Like that was kind of all I was thinking about. And I think all I was tweeting about and everything, like it was all kind of Knicks the first night. And then, and then the next day I woke up and started thinking about it more from on the Timberwolves side too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm more excited about it. I think like for the Knicks, like I think it really raises their ceiling, like if it works out, it's, it could be pretty special there. But I like it for Minnesota too. I think they get deeper. It was kind of like a 2-for-1, but it felt like they got a lot deeper. Like their bench got a lot better. I mean, obviously if you add Dante DiVincenzo, assuming he's going to come off the bench, which I think he probably will. But he should have, probably like borderline starters minutes. So it's like kind of a cop out. And I do this with a lot of trades, especially initially, but I do like it for both sides. And it's like, it's probably why both sides agreed to it. Like that's how these trades are. Like there's a great chance it's going to work out for one side way better than the other. But like, we don't know until we see it. Exactly. But it was surprising, above all else. Like it caught me way off guard. I think I could probably speak for a lot of people when I say that, even though like cat trades have been rumored for years. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like we've all talked about it a lot and it's been out there, but I think like just the timing of it, like coming off that season that they had, the successful season they had for it to happen now, I think was a little surprising to people. But I don't hate it. I certainly wouldn't have been opposed to it a year before or whatever, like the previous offseason, even at like, and so I'm really, I get it. But yeah, it was a crazy one, man.
Yeah. Like you said, cat trade rumors have been going on for a minute. And then cat trade rumors to New York is something that kind of got it going last year. Mm-hmm. And I even predicted it on a podcast. I'm like, that was one of my predictions. I was like, Cat's going to be a Knick. Now, it took a year later, but it wound up happening. But, I feel like, with that trade that, Julius Randle, it kind of felt like, all right, everything that transpired this year, all the little, not so much the little things, like, Brunson getting the extension and I think he kind of felt the way because he's like, yo, I took less money too. I didn't get a lot of the love that Brunson got. And, just everything. I just felt like little things were probably just getting to him. And I think it was time. It was time. And I think he doesn't, with Randall, he needs the ball in his hand to be effective. And with Cat, you don't need that. He doesn't need the ball in his hand to be effective. And he's a better shooter. You could space out. And I think Boston got teams just trying to figure out how to beat them. And, that style of basketball is, I think you're going to see a lot of 5 out and everyone just trying to shoot it out, especially with the loss of Hartenstein, and Mitchell being out to January, February. We don't know when exactly, so I think they were like, all right, we got to pull the trigger now. And we're all in. You saw they were all in when they get Mikal. They gave up 6 draft picks, so they went all in. So I think this is an all-in move, and they're trying to capitalize on this. So at first I was like, yeah, I'm not the biggest Cat fan. And, there's things I don't like, especially, defensively and, but and rebounding. But, I think I'm coming around, Brett. I think I'm coming around with it. And like you said, we got to see it. We really do have to see it to see if it really works. Just going by the trade is whatever, but we got to see it on the court. So, we're going to get to see that very soon, because that's the one thing is like it happened so soon to the season. I mean, media day was yesterday, so it's like you don't really see big trades like that happen so quick to the season.
I think that's a big part of why it was so surprising. But certainly like less surprising on the New York. Like the Randall did kind of feel like the odd man out, like coming into the season a little bit. Like he would have obviously had a big role if he had returned to the Knicks, but like he did kind of feel like the odd man out a little bit. And like for you to be able to get, I say you're wearing a Knicks hat, so I'm just saying you, but the Knicks, for the Knicks to be able to get Cat, for like it's a pretty good haul. And like, Cat's not a perfect player. But we know he can shoot the hell out of the ball, and we know he's, 7 feet tall or at least close to it. And, a big body, if nothing else, defensively. So I think that's about very expensive player, obviously, but I think the highest paid player in Knicks history, but very nice return though. And like you said, all in. So exciting times in New York, but I don't hate it for Minnesota. It's just like more exciting on the New York end, like more splashy, because you look at that starting 5. It's like, oh my gosh, like what is that going to look like? So that's just yet another reason to be like super hyped for this season. Something we're all going to be paying a lot of attention to, like how that trade ages. But but like New York, like you made a great point though. Like Randall needs the ball. New York has Brunson. New York doesn't so much need that guy that's going to need the ball in his hand a lot, right? Like New York would rather have a guy that can catch and shoot. Whereas Minnesota could use another guy like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so Randall fits in that sense where he can do a lot more with the ball, a lot more creation, a lot more off the dribble, getting to the rim and stuff. So like on paper, I think it makes sense for both teams. I really do.
Yeah, I think it works out. Dante, he's the all-time leader in single season for threes for Knicks, so they get that type of shooter, coming off the bench or however they're going to use them. That's definitely going to help, and it's a new coming of age. It's officially Ant-Man's team, and it's officially really Brunson's team.
No confusion on either side now.
No confusions at all. Those two guys are two of the brightest stars in this league, so they get to now see if they can lead their teams to maybe a matchup in the finals. But let's talk about let's get into it. We're talking about the Western Conference, and we're going to dive in. I got everything right here. We're going to go through some teams, all the teams out west. So, and we'll just do a little bit brief. We'll get your brief take on each team. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the Dallas Mavericks, the Western Conference champions. They added Klay Thompson in a sign and trade. It's still weird. It's still weird seeing him in a Dallas uniform. Still got to get used to that. So used to him being in Golden State. But they added Spencer Dinwiddie. They lost Derrick Jones in free agency too, which he was a crucial part to their road to the finals, and also Josh Green, who went in the Hornets trade. But you guys just give me your thoughts on the Dallas Mavericks and what are the expectations for this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously they went to the finals, and I really think they got better. I mean, you add an all-time great shooter to help space the floor. Just thinking about the looks that he's going to get, that's going to be generated for him with guys like Luka and Kyrie there, especially Luka. Like, that's crazy to think about. And while they did lose Derrick Jones Jr., I like the additions of Quentin Grimes, your boy, and Najee Marshall as well. A couple of guys that can guard on the perimeter, offer a little bit offensively in different ways. And the Dinwiddie one, I almost forgot about that, but like, he was pretty good for them a couple of years ago. So like, you could do worse with a backup guard. Like, he's not my favorite player, but that's a pretty solid pickup too. So I think they just definitely got better, got deeper. And you added this just, lethal weapon in Clay that's going to just, kill you if you give him open looks. So I'm very high on this team. Like, I think, I probably would say they're like, I'd probably have second in the West right now. Like, if I was doing like a power ranking style thing, I know we'll probably get into more like prediction type stuff, but they're up there for me. I'm very high on that team. So yeah, just rightfully so, I think, man. That's a finals team, and I really do think, and they added Klay Thompson. Forget about the rest, right?
Yeah. And then another year, you have a second year with Derek Lively, who really showed out. Adding Gafford and Washington at the deadline was why they went to the finals. Because if they don't add those guys, it's probably one and done. And then this is a completely different conversation about Dallas.
It was the conversation we were having last offseason, right? Like,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, it was night and day before those guys got, like, that was such a huge deadline for them. So yeah, I agree. Lively, that's a good point. Like, he's only getting better.
He's only getting better. Yeah. He's going to continue to get better. Maybe he adds, adds a perimeter game. But Kyrie and Luka, there was worry, like you said, when they first added Kai, they didn't seem like it may have worked. They didn't make the playoffs, and people were like, "Oh man, here we go again with Kai." And then, he bought in, Luka bought in, and like I said, the trade at the deadline, they went all the way to the NBA Finals. And it was a tremendous run, and they just gotta, I like them too. I didn't like them coming into last year, but this year I like this team a lot, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they're back at it in the finals again. And then it was tough against Boston, but Boston was, Boston, they were a juggernaut. But man, Dallas's run to the finals, take down OKC. Would they beat the Clippers in the first round?
Yeah, Clippers, OKC, Minnesota. Yeah,
Clippers, OKC, then take down Minnesota in the conference finals. So Luka's just, I thought he was the MVP. I thought he should have been the MVP. That was my pick for the MVP.
He's my pick for this season. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
right now.
and you know what? I think I might be going with him for the MVP. I think he wants the MVP. Yeah. So he's due, and They have a really good team. I think Clay's going to fit in better than maybe I first thought. I was kind of like, okay, how does he fit to ball dominant guys? But I think, you're not expecting him to be prime Clay, and we know he's not. So just stay in the corner, do your thing, and I think it's going to work out. So I like this Dallas Mavericks team a lot going into this year, and I think they'll make a deep run this year again.
Yeah, no question. I think it would be disrespectful to think otherwise. At this point, like, I think we'll see Clay doing some of the stuff he did in Golden State. Yeah. Like, I don't think he'll just be standing around. I think he's going to be moving around, and
100%.
And people, I think the Clay is washed thing might be a little bit overblown. Like, he's older. He's like 35 now or whatever, but also he's another year removed from those injuries. So I think those kind of like factors can counteract a little bit. Like, he's older, but like, he's maybe healthier. You know what I mean? It takes a couple years to bounce back from that. So like, he could be in a sweet spot where he's like, at least no worse than he was last season. And he was pretty good last season. So yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, man. But I'm with you. It's crazy to think that he's not a Warrior. anymore. But
it looks weird, but he looks happy. He looks happy. It felt like he wasn't happy these last few years in Golden State. But
he's going to be contending for a title. So I know he's happy. Clay's a winner. He wants to win. So that's what's all
right. So that's Dallas. Let's go to the team that held up the trophy the year before, and the Denver Nuggets. They lost in the semifinals to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They re-signed Jamal Murray to a 4-year max deal. They added Russell Westbrook, who was traded again to the Utah Jazz and waived again. Feels like he's been 2 times Utah Jazz, but never suited up for them. They lose KCP though. KCP goes to the Orlando Magic. They lose Reggie Jackson, and then a draft pick in Holmes, who they thought would actually be a good key piece, tears his Achilles in summer league. So Denver, Jokic won 3 of the last 4 MVPs. MVP again last year, did his thing. How do we feel about Denver this year, though?
I think they're going to be real good. I mean, up there. I mean, for sure, top 4, probably top 3 for me, in the West. It hurts to lose KCP, right? We know that he's won championships with multiple teams. We know he's a knockdown shooter that defends and a super durable player, consummate pro, all that. But at the same time, I think maybe a little bit too much has been made about his departure. Any Denver Nuggets talk that I've heard all offseason has included, but they lost. It's okay. He's not a star. And I think for me, the thing is, I'm pretty high on Christian Brown, who I'm assuming is going to slot in for him in that starting 5.
Makes sense.
I mean, I'm that's kind of the presumed starter. And I like that kid a lot. Let me see what he looks like in year 3 with starters minutes. He's a good shooter. He shot 38.4% from 3 last season. It was on lower volume and lower minutes, but it's not like the guy can't shoot. He can attack closeouts. He can get to the rim. He's bigger than KCP. He's a legit 6'7".
He's a big boy.
He really is, and he's yoked, and he's very athletic. He's an above the rim finisher. I've tweeted that the other day, just a dunk compilation of him, in case people didn't know. CB can fly. So you get this added element of size and athleticism where you might lose a little bit in shooting and certainly experience, but I think he can defend at that level of KCP and maybe even guard up a little more. So I don't know. I think the KCP departure might open up Christian Brown for a little bit of a breakout. And I mean, remember in their finals run, even in the playoffs, he was a big part of that. As a rookie,
brought a lot of energy
as a rookie. And so this is year 3. I think he's going to have a real nice season. So I'm actually not that worried about the KCP departure, but they're counting on their young guys to ascend. Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, those guys, especially.
Strawther, man. I like Strawther a lot.
And they're going to need his shooting, right? They're going to need his shooting. They that's the one thing when you look at this team. Obviously, they have MPJ. But other than that, they need shooting. So I think they're going to count on Strawther because he's one of their best shooters. So, but I like all those guys. So, Watson, Strawther, and Brown. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm maybe not worried about the Nuggets at all. And then obviously, when you have Jokic, and then if Murray's healthy, he's a little bit of a question mark. But I think as long as Murray's healthy and those young guys, at least a couple of them can really step up, I think they're going to be just fine. The Westbrook thing's a little bit of a wild card, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited about it, just to see what he looks like on the court with Jokic, and the potential for him to get an NBA title is pretty exciting too. I'd low key be rooting for them maybe in the playoffs just because of that. So they're gonna be a fun team to pay attention to. I think this season, I think they're gonna be really good.
I think the key for them is those youngins, like you just mentioned, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Christian Braun. How those guys adapt to taking that next step, because they are going to be vital pieces in this potential, to try to get back to the finals. Because if they're rocking and rolling, I mean, how can't you say this team is not at least a conference finals team, right? They have the best player in the NBA. Right. They got a lot of good pieces. Jamal Murray, yes, he's could be questioned, but he's still a high level player, especially come playoff time. We saw 2 buzzer beaters versus the Lakers, so, and they still got, Aaron Gordon, and, I know So they got a good squad, and Westbrook there. I think that's going to help them out too. The youngins, him playing with the second unit is going to help those youngins out a lot. He's going to put them in the right spot. He's played forever, 15, 16-year vet. And listen, he knows this is maybe the last hurrah, and this is maybe his best chance to win the championship. So he's got to help those youngins. But in order for them to get there, they got to need the Julian Strawther, the Peyton Watson, all those guys to step up. So, but I like Julian Strawther a lot. So
me too. He was real good before he got hurt last season. Like he was looking like a guy that was going to be part of their rotation, and then he got hurt, and then he never really got right. But but the bottom line is he can shoot the ball. I think there's lots to like with this team. Like we could talk all day about they lost KCP and they lost Bruce Brown the year before, and they lost Jeff Green. Shout out Jeff Green, Georgetown. But those guys they still got, like you said, they've still got Murray, they've still got MPJ, they've still got Aaron Gordon, they've still got Jokic, and they've got 3 really nice young players and even a couple more. But those are kind of the main 3 that I think are going to need to step up. And Russ, man, great leader, great dude, great locker room guy. I think he's going to be good for them for sure. Yeah, and they got Jokic, so you can never count them out, man. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. You get the best player in the world, or I think he's the best player in the world. But I think most people do. But you can't count him out, man. Great coach, great system. They're going to be right up there. I'm not worried about them. All right. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. What, they won it 3 years ago? They won it 3 years ago, right? 22, right? So before Denver, before Denver. So we're going with the last 3 representatives out west. So the Golden State Warriors, they re-signed Steph. He signed for $78,000 million. he just took all the money. He said, "All right, give me $66 million for a 1-year deal." They get him. They re-sign him. That's that's just automatic. Buddy Hield, they get a sign and trade from the 76ers. I think that's a nice piece. They picked up Kyle Anderson. Obviously, they lose Klay Thompson. They lose CP3. They lose Dario Saric. So the Golden State Warriors, they lost in the play-in. So Wiggins didn't play great basketball. It just felt like they were in a weird spot. So what do you think happens this year? Do we see them fixing their lineup? Do you think we get back to the playoffs, or do we see kind of some of the dysfunction we saw last year? Draymond getting suspended and getting kicked out of games like crazy, and he's getting older. He's getting older. Obviously, there's no Klay. Steph's getting older too, but he's still a premier player. Just come off his first Olympics, he won his first gold medal. So, incorporating some of the younger guys they've drafted the last few years with Kuminga and Moody and Pozinski, who they drafted last year. So how we feeling about the Golden State Warriors this year? I think they're a team with a really wide range of potential outcomes. It really is, right? You know what I mean? I think they could be pretty damn good. If they're healthy and Kuminga takes the leap that I think he's going to take, Podziemski continues to grow. If Draymond's, they could be pretty darn good. I really do believe that. You think they have the biggest gap as far as range? Is I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the NBA Finals, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they're knocked out in the play-in. They're up there. They're up there. I have to think about that one, but they're definitely up there in terms of that. Maybe. Because they're one Steph Curry injury away from the lottery. You know what I mean? If he went down like that, I don't know, man. But you're right though, right? But it would be a few years back when they got the COVID year, when everyone got hurt and all the young guys, and they and I think maybe they've got a better group of young guys now than they did then. They'd be better, but the West is so tough. There's not much room for error, and that's why I really do think this whole playoff picture is going to be largely dictated by injury luck. That's kind of how it is, I think, when there's this much parity in the league and in a conference. But I'm not counting that team out, man. They've got a great bench. They really, if you look at they're, I don't know exactly what their lineups are going to be. I would assume the starting 5 is probably going to be Steph, Podziemski, Kuminga, Wiggins, and Draymond. Probably. That's most likely, yeah. So then you've got Hield and Melton and Trace Jackson Davis, coming off the bench. I mean, they're pretty
Kyle
solid.
Anderson,
Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. So like they're pretty deep in that sense. I think almost more the question is like, how's that starting five going to perform? But I like them, man. I think they quietly had a really nice offseason. I mean, you lose Clay, but like bringing in Hield is one of the few guys that might be like almost as good of a shooter as Clay. And then I love Melton and Anderson. They're just both really solid veterans that kind of do a little bit of everything. So I don't know. This is not a team that I'm projecting to get to the finals or even like the West Finals or anything like that. But like if they were to get into the playoffs and win a series, I wouldn't be shocked. But at the same time, like the wheels could fall off and they could just pivot and go in a different direction and say, we're going all in youth movement. Like, you know, like, cause they won 46 games last year and they didn't make the playoffs. And I could say the same thing about the Sacramento Kings. They won 46 games and didn't make the playoffs. And the Houston Rockets won 41 and didn't even get in the play-in. So like that's three, like, I mean, that's how the West might be even crazier this year. So you could win 46 and miss the playoffs. So it's I think it's going to come down to health, man. With a lot of these teams, and they're one that's kind of in the mix there. Like, you know, you have your OKCs, your Dallas, and your Denver, like those in Minnesota probably too. Like those guys are locks, but like beyond that, you know, a lot of these teams we're going to talk about, I think, you know, it's going to be a couple games that decided or a couple injuries. But I like their offseason. The main thing for me as just a guy who loves watching young players improve and ascend in the league is Kuminga. He's my most improved player pick for the NBA this year. Like, me
too. That was my pick.
Hey, it's a solid pick, man. And I think he really showed some stuff last year, and I think he's got a lot more that we're gonna see. So, and if they want to be good, he needs to be their second leading scorer. Like I think
I think Wiggins they're gonna move Wiggins. They're gonna move Wiggins.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I think they would be open to that. But I think either way, like I think Kuminga jumps him in the hierarchy in terms of like scoring.
I would, certainly. That's how I would dictate the offense. It's like, all right, obviously Steph's option one, but hey, Kuminga needs to be our secondary player. Like he has to be, you know, his Klay Thompson, like not the style, but that has to be the second option. And Wiggins just has to just be that connector, that connecting piece. That seems like that's his role. At this point of his career, you know, he's just he needs to be a connecting piece, and I think that's how he maximizes his game, is being that type of as a third option. Essentially, I think you need Kuminga to level up, take that next step in order to, if they want to be back in the playoffs. Kuminga has to be that 23, 24 point per game type of guy.
Yeah, he needs to be like a star. Like maybe not like this, but like
borderline
on his way, like to being a star, where we're like, oh, this guy's a star. Whereas like with Wiggins, like I think you want him to be like a very different player, but like an Aaron Gordon level role player. Like that would be
perfect.
That you know what I mean? Like that type of like a very high end role player. If you can get that out of Wiggins and you can get that like star to borderline star leap out of Kuminga, then you're cooking with some gas. And like, but I think that's how it's going to need to go. And then you just need Steph to be Steph, Draymond to be Draymond, and then you're looking pretty good. So those are some pretty big ifs, I guess, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
The Warriors, they still got Steph too. So like I said, I could see Kuminga taking a step, Steph to being Steph. I could see Draymond behaving ish, and you know, Trace Jackson's another. That's a great piece off the bench. I could see those guys ascending, and they're battling to get to the finals. But I can also see those things not working out, and then they're a play-in team again, and they get bounced up. So they have one of the widest ranges in the NBA. But you know, we'll see what happens in Golden State. All right, well, you just mentioned this team before, a team that had a hot start and then kind of fizzled out. But the Houston Rockets, they missed the playoffs, won 41 games, but they have a great young nucleus. They added Aaron Holiday. Not a lot of moves. They waived AJ Griffin, who retired, and hopefully everything is good with him. Nice, good young player that I really like coming out of the draft, coming out of Duke. Dealt with a lot of injuries, so you know, wishing him the best. And they also added Reef Shepherd with the third pick, which I absolutely love. I think he is a great Brett. Houston Rockets. How you like them going forward?
Pretty excited about this team, man. I can't lie. I think they've got one of the craziest collections of young talent like I've ever seen. Like, I mean, they're just stacked with like they've got like seven.
Jabari, Amen Thompson. These are all top picks. You know, these are all high. And Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore. The fact that I had him fifth on my board, Brett, he dropped to the 20s. They got Tari Eason, who missed a lot of time last year.
Love him.
You know, they still got him. You know, they got some good young pieces, man.
Yeah, I mean, Şengün was like, all-star level last season. And then like all these guys are like 23 and under.
It's great. And they're good already.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So like that, that's the first thing that comes to mind with them is just that. And, it's like, but there's some challenges with that. And it's like good challenges to have, but like, you've got to sort of, okay, like who are we like prioritizing in terms of minutes, in terms of development? Like who might we
that's
move
the one
on from?
Thing, yep.
Like, because they can't all play and they can't all be there forever. You've still got a couple vets too that you're counting on, who are going to have to get minutes for now, at least until they maybe potentially move on from them. But that's going to probably be determined by how much success the team is having. But I think the fact that they improved by 19 wins last season from the previous season, going from 22 to 41 is remarkable. And I don't think that they've gotten enough credit for that. I don't think Ime Udoka's gotten enough credit for that.
Great. He's a really good coach.
Yeah,
really good coach.
And that's one of the reasons why I believe in this team as like a potential playoff team. Because he's not going to let them fail, I don't think. No. And like they've got a couple of really solid veterans, and then you look at all the young guys, and even if a couple of those guys take big leaps, then they're looking pretty good because they won 41 with all those guys a year younger. So it's like, what if Jalen Green turns into an all-star? What if Amen Thompson, takes a big leap? What if Jabari Smith is like averages, 19 and 9? Like there's a lot of things that could happen. Like what if Cam Whitmore blows up? What if, if we forget about Tari Eason, how valuable he is as just like a
lock-up defensively.
Elite role player. Like, when he's healthy, like a great rebounder, great defender, can knock down a 3, 6'8". Like they've got so much to work with. So I'm pretty high on this team, man. It might sound like I'm high on a lot of these teams, like, cause I am, but, in a different way with Houston, because they've just got they've got so much potential, man. Like, I'm not saying they're gonna like make a deep playoff run this year, but it's hard to imagine they won't be better than they were last season. And they were pretty darn good last season. They were a competitive team. They're gonna be tough. And we haven't even mentioned like Reed Shepherd. Like like I don't know how he's gonna play. Like he's probably like essentially the backup point guard. This season,
I would say, yeah, and right? It all depends. I don't know how they with the men, because I know men can handle the ball too.
Yeah,
but but Reed could shoot though, so he's gonna have to play. He's too good of a shooter to not have on the court.
And then it'll just be like, okay, where are we at? Like at the trade deadline, maybe. Like, what are we looking like? Are we making a playoff push? Like, if so, like maybe we hang on to these vets. Like, but there's always the potential to move. Fred VanVleet, like maybe Dylan Brooks, like those guys could be traded. You could look to bring in like a superstar if you move, if you trade that VanVleet expiring and maybe one or two of your young guys and like a pick, like you get a lot of guys. Like you could make some moves, man. So that's another fun thing with this team. In addition to just like the expected development of their young guys, is like the potential is there for them to make a really big splash and like it maybe get a lot better. By doing that. So we'll see who's available, but that they could be in the mix.
They're the sleeping giant, Brett.
Yeah.
They're the sleeping giant.
Yeah.
They like you said, they got the expirings that teams like. They got the young players that teams like.
Yep.
That's a good combination if you want to make a splash. When they hired Ime Udoka, that's when they were like, all right, we're taking this serious. We're trying to win. Yes, we like our young guys, but hey, we're gonna go get a Fred VanVleet. We're gonna get a Dylan Brooks. We're going to incorporate because you need good young vet. You need good vets for these young guys. And at first, when it happened, I wasn't crazy about it because I'm like, all right, does Fred VanVleet get into Amen? You just drafted Amen Thompson top 5, why would you kind of disrupt that? And you add Dylan Brooks to this, the ultimate disruptor. But he wound up playing really pretty solid basketball last year. Fred VanVleet was solid, so it's like, all right, maybe maybe I was maybe I overreacted to that.
No, I think a lot of people felt that way too. It's like, we want to see these young guys play, and wait, now, like, is Amen Thompson going to play because you got Fred? Is Tari
that was my
stuck behind Dylan Brooks? That's a lot of people too. But it's like, you know what, you have to spend the money, like, you have to meet the salary floor. And honestly, if you look at those contracts, like Dylan Brooks, like $20 million a year, like, maybe, I don't know, you can maybe say it's a little bit of an overpay for him, but it's not like an untradeable contract.
Oh, in today's NBA, that's nothing.
It's actually, it doesn't even seem like that much anymore. No, and then Fred VanVleet got a huge annual number, but it was a team option in year 3. So he's only they're only committed to him through this season.
That's it. Yeah.
So he's essentially like an expiring. So yeah, I mean, I get it, and those guys, like you said, ended up really helping them a lot. Like, there's no way they get to that 41 wins without those dudes. Yeah. So now these young guys have had a taste of winning, and we might see like an accelerated trajectory of improvement.
100%. Yeah. I think it will end up actually being a benefit to them, and it's going to help the young guys. And if, like I said, at the deadline, if they feel like there's a move that they can make, or even at the end of the season, there's something they can do. They have the ammunition to do it, and they can 100%. Trust these young guys to take. And Jabari Smith, he's one of my guys who's, I think, is going to make a leap along. You mentioned Kuminga before. Jabari 19-9. I think those are numbers that I think he can reach, and I think he's going to take a next step in year 3 in the NBA. I'm very high on him. So, and also Sengun's a beast. He's one of the better centers in the league. So, Houston Rock is definitely on the way up. All right. So speaking of, we got a team on the way up. Maybe a team on the way down. They just got a new arena. Apparently, it's the greatest arena of all time, and that's the Los Angeles Clippers. They got bounced in the first round by Dallas. Another year, Brett, of no Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. Back-to-back years, didn't only played, I think, one game in the playoffs last year. But the big move is that there is no more Paul George in LA. He wound up going out east and playing. It is now with the 76ers, but they re-up James Harden. They re-up Ivica Zubac. They added Bamba. They added Chris Dunn, Batum. They added some nice pieces. They get, Kevin Porter Jr. I know how, he's a very, polarizing player. But he is talented. If we're just going to talk about on the court, he is a talented player. Yep. So they bring him and get Derrick Jones from Dallas. So, but obviously they lose Paul George and Kawhi. We don't know because, he was on Team USA and then he was no longer on Team USA. So his health is always going to be in question, Brett. So I think we could probably agree that they're one of the teams where I have no clue. It all depends on if Kawhi's good. He played 68 games last year.
And he was all NBA second team.
And he was all NBA player.
He was great. I believe he was second team. Like he was probably one of the 10 best players in the league. So that's the thing. It's like when he's on the court, like we know that he's going to be one of the best players in the league. And I think Kawhi he's very cautious with his injuries, right? As we've learned over the years, he's not going to push it. Like he's not going to. He's very so like when he does come back from his injuries, like he's good to go and he's a beast on the court. Like he doesn't let it compromise him in that way. So like, man, I mean, if you could get another 65 plus games out of Kawhi, like that's great. And then you just got to have him healthy for the playoffs. And like 3 years in a row would be crazy. Like I think if they get to the playoffs and he's healthy, like odds are I actually think he'll be good in the playoffs. But like, I don't know if they have enough to get like a high seed in this tough West. Again, like I said before, they're probably in that group of teams that's going to just be decided by like a game or two, like where there could be like a game and a half separating like the 5 from like the 9 in the West, it could really be like that. So, but you lose Paul George. I like the Derrick Jones edition. Like I think Zubac is going to have a real nice season for them. Harden is going to be really interesting because like it's pretty clear that he's going to have a much higher role in terms of like usage and scoring than he's had probably his last couple seasons. So I'm wondering like, what are we going to see from him? Is this like, could we see like 25 and 10 from Harden? Like maybe. I'm not super high on this team just with the injury concerns, the age concerns. They were good last year. They won 51 games. If you could promise me that Kawhi is going to play 65 plus and be healthy for the playoffs, I'd feel a lot better because Kawhi's a monster. But like, it's obviously concerning. You know, you didn't want to hear that news that he's not right quite yet. They're making it, you know, like he's saying he's basically is and is just being cautious, all that. And like, it's not that I don't believe him, but you just got to see it, you know, just got to see him on the court. So I'm just not like super excited about this team. Like, they're just not like the most exciting team for me. So like, I don't know. I can't get hyped about them, but I know they're going to be solid and they're going to be in the mix, especially if their main guys are healthy. Like, I'm not counting them out. But I think they're just in that big group of teams that's going to be like between, you know, 5 and 10, 11, even in the West. Like, they're going to be somewhere in there. And that's where like health is really going to decide it. So like Kawhi's knee, you know, that's obviously going to be the big thing for them.
I could see a world where Kawhi doesn't even play. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that ended up happening. I mean, obviously, like based on what they're saying, like he should be good to go. It just sounds bad. It just sounds bad. Like
because of like the history, but But man, if he's healthy, he's so good. He was so good last year. Like, people talk like he's washed because he had another injury, but like, but he wasn't. He was great when he was healthy. It wasn't like we saw this like declining guy. Like, he's still a monster. So, yeah, that's their whole season is going to hinge on that. I don't think they have enough to even probably like just say he didn't play or like he missed, you know, more than half the season. Like, they might not even make the play-in. Like, if that was the case, but I'm not. Yeah. I don't know. I think he will, but I think he will play. But yeah, they're counting on him, obviously.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but
they're a tough one to talk about sometimes. I don't know why. Like,
James, like with Harden, you know, this isn't Houston Harden, and you know he's dealt with some injuries, and he's definitely lost a few steps. You know, his first step used to be automatic.
Yeah,
like that used to be so deadly, and now he can see it in spurts, but you don't see it's just not there like we used to see it. So yeah, all depends on Kawhi. If he's gonna play 60, if somehow he plays 65 games, I think they're a team that could be a top 6 seed. But if it's anything less than, you know, half the games, it's going to be a tough year for them. And yeah, I could see them being outside of the play-in. So
they could be like a 42 win team that misses the play-in, like in the West. This year. Like for real, like it's crazy. They're tough. They're a tough team.
I'm
trying to get to a game though. Like next time I'm out, I'm going to try to get to LA for a game because I want to see that arena.
I heard it.
And that's where I came from there. So yeah, I want to get back out there for a game for sure.
All right, so let's talk about the team that kicked them out of the crypto arena and the Los Angeles Lakers. They lost in 5 to the Nuggets, and it was in that series. Yes, they lost in 5, but they
could have won.
Yeah. They could have 2 games buzzer beater by Jamal Murray. That could have won 7, and they could have won that series
for sure.
You know, so it was a lot closer than the 5-game scenes. But they added they re-signed Max Christie to a 4-year deal. They re-signed Braun, you know, to another monster deal. So he'll be there for 2 years. Drafted Bronny, obviously. Oh, yeah. You know, if you didn't know that, they drafted Bronny James.
I didn't know. I was wondering what team he went to, man.
You know, if you were just wondering, you know, he happened to be with the Lakers, you know. And Dalton Connect in the first round, they picked up. He dropped, and they got him, I think, with the 17th pick. So, you know, some additions there. So how do you feel about the Lakers this year? Braun's going to be 40 by New Year's Eve. You know, it's just crazy, man. Like we've seen his whole career, just 2003, and he's still doing it at a high level. Like it's going to come to a point where his career is over, and it's like, oh man, there's no more LeBron James. So like, do anyone listen? Just appreciate this man because we might not get many more years left of you know, seeing greatness.
Yeah, it's like I always say, like, just to anybody, like, think about what you were doing when he was when he came into the league. Think about where you were in life, and then everything that's happened since then. Like, You know what I'm saying?
Was 13, yeah, 13 today, yeah, 13 years old. Hearing about this guy from the trying to find like in the discussion rooms and forums, like there's this guy from Cleveland, from Ohio that's just down 6'8". He's just dominating. I'm like, who? And he has the same name as me. I'm like, oh, okay, who's this guy? And then 20 years later, 22 years later, he's still the guy.
It's amazing, man. He's still one of the best in the league. So I mean, like, I think like the main thing with the Lakers is it's just like last season, like he and AD were really healthy all season. They both pretty much played a full season. If they can get that again, I don't see why they'd be any worse than they were last season. I think they'd be right in that range. But that's asking a lot, man. LeBron turns 40 this season, and AD is like 2 healthy seasons from AD in a row is asking a lot, unfortunately, with his injury history. But who knows? Maybe his body has kind of turned a corner in that regard. Maybe he's figured something out. I wouldn't rule it out. So and I like the supporting cast. Like I love Austin Reeves. I think Rui Hachimura has been great for them. Like I'm a pretty big fan of his, and I like D'Lo more than most people do. Although I wouldn't rule out a trade there. And you mentioned Max Christie, definitely like a breakout candidate, a guy that I think is going to be a very important player for them. So yeah, for me, it really just comes down to the health of the big two. If one of those guys misses significant time, they probably fall pretty quickly to like, the bottom of the playoff picture / play-in, somewhere in that range. Like, so they're going to need those guys to be healthy. But I'm excited about JJ Redick. I think that's pretty exciting. I think
I'm excited too, man.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be a great coach, man. I really do. I see no reason why he won't be. You never know. Of course, we got to see it, but I think he's gonna be a great coach, and it's just gonna be cool to see somebody that was in the NBA so recently and somebody that we're like so familiar with because of that, and also like the media like stardom that he achieved just in a couple of short years after retiring from the NBA, and now he's on this stage. Like you just went from like the biggest like former player podcast to like an even bigger one, the one you did with LeBron, and now you're coaching the Lakers. Like, and I just think it's funny how people be like, oh, nobody would want that job, or oh, that's the worst job. You're just gonna get criticized, blah blah blah, this and that. You're gonna be fired. Man, if you have the right type of personality, that is the dream job. Like you are coaching the Los Angeles Lakers. Like when people say that, like who would want that job? Like, okay, I get it. Like, it's tough. Like, you're going to be criticized. Like, you're going to be in the spotlight, blah, blah, blah. But if you have the right type of personality and like that kind of stuff, and I think JJ Redick is that kind of guy, that is a dream job. So,
of course,
kudos to him for
it's like being the manager of the Yankees.
Bro, yes.
The head coach of the Cowboys. Like, you're not gonna get the credit that you deserve, but you're gonna get a blame. But hey,
you're coaching the Lakers. Like,
you're coaching the elite of the elite. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope it works out. I like JJ, and I'd love to see LeBron have a little more success, because like you said, we don't know how long he's going to be going for. I'm approximately the same age as him, so like I'm up there with him almost. So I get it. Like where I try to go out on the court and play, and I think about what this guy's doing. At the same age, right? It's like it blows my mind, man. Bro. It's like it is crazy. So I'm with you, man. Just trying to appreciate every moment.
Yep, and like I say, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Gabe Vincent should be healthy. He was not healthy last year. I think he'll help. Some of their young players like Jalen Hood-Schifino. We'll see what how they, in year 2 for him.
Oh, I don't know about that one, man. Nothing against him, but like, man, you had Jaime Jaquez Jr. was right there. And so was Cam Whitmore. Yeah, and like
they took a project. Yeah, Hood-Schifino is definitely going to be a project, but I've heard some good things. So
I'm rooting for him, man. I'm rooting for him. Yeah. That was a tough one last year, but yeah. We'll
see.
The Max Christie thing is going to be important. They're going to need him. I really.
They got shooters.
Just looking at their roster, yeah.
They got shooters. Maxwell Lewis too, nice. So they got some guys that can shoot. They surround LeBron with shooters. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, they were. That series was a lot closer than the 5 games showed us, but they definitely Anthony Davis, maybe he's gonna be healthy, maybe he figured, like you said, maybe he figured something out. So we'll see what happens in Los Angeles and see if they can make another run in year 20 whatever it is for LeBron James. All right, let's talk about a team that went through a lot last year. and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. They did not make the playoffs. We all know what happened with the whole Ja stuff. Then he came back. It looked like, okay, maybe he can make it. That first game back was tremendous, and then he got hurt, and then the season just went absolutely downhill. They re-signed Luke Kennard. They drafted Zach Edey in the top 10. They also drafted Jalen Wells, the kid I like out of Washington State, who's a shooter, in the second round. They traded Zaire Williams. He went to the Nets, and they also drafted Cam Spencer too. So they had some shooters. Took a chance on Zach Edey to see if that works. They needed big. They got him. So how we feel about this team, and we just heard about Jaren Jackson Jr. He has a hamstring. So it's like, all right, a team that's already going through a lot, and it's like they have that. So what's your thoughts? I'm not crazy about Memphis. I don't think they make the playoffs this year.
Ooh, I'm way higher on them than you, man.
All right,
but yeah, I just saw that Jaren thing right before we went on. I mean, there was no details beyond just like, maybe he could miss some time, which you don't want to see. If it's a week or two, okay, no problem. But hopefully it's nothing that lingers beyond that. Like, we're just starting training camp now, so like we've got some time here to ramp up. Like if he's good by November, no worries. But yeah, Gigi Jackson's hurt too, and Vince Williams. Vince Williams, who was great for them last year, is hurt as well. So they're both going to miss some time, and that's not great. But I don't think that's going to like make or break their season. Those two guys, as long as you have the main dudes. But no, I think they're going to be tough, man. I mean, if they can stay healthy, of course. Last year was a historically injury-riddled season for them. It was they set every record imaginable in terms of like games missed and players they had to use, and different lineups they had to use. They set every record in that regard. But no, man. I mean, Ja's back. Ja looked great when he played last year. He only played 9 games, but he looked phenomenal. And I love the Edey pick. I don't know if I would love it if it was on a different team, but I think I
agree with you. I even said that on the draft show I did. I was like, I don't know about any other team, but this team, I would give it a shot. I think it could work. Yeah,
like if the Wizards had taken him at 2, like I don't know, man. I wouldn't be feeling as great about that right now. And that's my new hometown team. No disrespect to the Wizards, but just in terms of the fit, but with Ja in a pick and roll, like. I think, and they need a center, and it enables Jaren to slide to the 4. Like it makes a lot of sense. So I'm not like 100% convinced he's going to be great in the NBA, but I think there's a chance he could end up being one of, if not the best player from this draft class, if everything clicks like the way that Memphis is hoping it will. So I love the pick, and it was a swing. Like we don't know. There might be some issues, but. I love when teams just kind of go for it, and he's such an interesting player. But really, just getting Ja back, having Jaren healthy, getting Marcus Smart back, and Desmond Bane back healthy. Like this was a team that was like 50+ wins right a couple years ago. Like this was the next up team. Like they were almost talked about the way OKC was talked about maybe last year. Like they were like on that kind of trajectory, and then they just had this historically cursed season from an injury perspective, And so, yeah, man, of course it comes down to health, but if all their main guys are healthy, I think they're a playoff team, like above. I think they'll finish above the play-in, like maybe 6, maybe 5, maybe 4, but I think they'll be in that range if everybody's healthy. They've got a great coach. Like they're deep. They've got a ton of at full health. They can go like 11, 12 deep. I mean, they're pretty loaded. So I don't really have any concerns with them other than injuries. And like, I'm not going to try to predict and say, oh, they got injured last year, so it's going to happen again. Like it could, but I'm on the optimistic side. We're like, hey, if they're healthy, they're going to be really good, I think. So I'm a believer. I'm a believer, man. Yeah, we're opposites on that. This is the first one where we're opposite.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's okay. They have no wings. That worries me out west. If you don't have wings, that's going to be tough. And like, yes, the injuries are thing, but it's they can be perfectly healthy this year and that not be an issue. But I just the construction. I'm not crazy about the starting lineup. With Marcus Smart, I'm not a big Marcus Smart guy. Sometimes he can get in the way of things. And I don't think they're big enough. No wings. I worry. I don't like their bench that much. I think their bench is a little thin. I like some of the young guys. I think some of the young guys can blossom, but that's something that's going to be, in the next few years. I'm not crazy about this team. Even if Jaws is playing 65 games, I'm still a little skeptical. I think even if they are full strength, I think I like Houston better than them right now. If full strength, if you go, man, I think Houston's better than them. So I think Memphis is gonna. I think they're outside looking in. If everything's right, I think they're outside looking in. So I think it'd be a tough year for them. But
it's a unique roster construction. Like there's no other team really built like them, where it's kind of like a bunch of guards and like a bunch of bigs. And not really many. I mean, you had like Gigi Jackson, I think you call wing. Vince Williams Jr. is a wing. I mean, obviously both those guys are hurt right now. I think Vince Williams, I think they'll both have roles for sure. I think they'll both be in the rotation when they're healthy. So that's something. Smart in the starting five, essentially playing the three. Like maybe that's something they go away from eventually. Like maybe they bring him off the bench and slot Vince Williams in there, for instance, when he's healthy and balance that lineup out a little bit, or maybe you look to Gigi and add some more shooting. But I don't know, man. I'm a believer, but that's we'll have to revisit this one for sure. But I hear where you're coming from, and like in the West is so tough, like where you could name these teams that you have over and be like, yeah, those teams could be really good too. So like it's hard to like predict who's going to be the 5 and who's going to be the 8. Like I think it's going to be close with a lot of these, but I would have them like a play above the play-in. That's where I put them.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're in there because I think John Morant's that good. But we'll see what happens. I just think I just have teams that I think are better than them, at full strength. So all right, let's talk about the team that was in the Western Conference Finals. Just made a massive move that we talked about in the beginning of the show, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. It is officially Ant-Man's team. He, has had a really good year overall, playing the Olympics, won a gold medal, got his team to the Western Conference Finals. But obviously, the team's going to look a lot different. And they added Julius Randle, obviously, and Dante DiVincenzo from the New York Knicks. They added Joe Ingles, PJ Dozier. They drafted Rob Dillingham, maybe potentially their point guard of the future. He could learn from Mike Conley, which is one of the better point guard vets in the league. And they also are Terrence Shannon Jr. From Illinois, bucket getter. Went through a lot last year off the court, but that will end up to be all thrown out. And he's good now. And, he's an older guy, but he is a scorer. So that's something they can use. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, man, is there a chance they can get back to the Western Conference Finals? What are we feeling about what's the state of Minnesota right now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they're very much in that mix, as a top 4 team in the West for sure. Like with OKC, Dallas, and Denver, like they'd be the 4th team in that mix. That I think is certainly a lock for to finish above the play-in, assuming they're mostly healthy. Obviously the trade, we talked about it off the jump. I like the Randall fit in terms of like having another guy that can create. Like there's going to be maybe some questions about the spacing that they lose by losing Cat and Randall. He's had his moments as a 3-point shooter, but probably not something you want to count on. So it's like, what's that going to look like when he's next to Gobert? Is that too little spacing? I'm pretty intrigued by the Naz Reid and Randall potential pairings. Like I think those lineups are going to be pretty sick. Like with you have like Jaden McDaniels and Edwards out there with them for the defense.
Some bully ball.
Yeah, I think those could be some really really fun lineups. So yeah, like I said, I think they got significantly deeper, even by just doing that 2-for-1, just by adding Dante, like coming off a historically great shooting season off the bench. So now your bench, like I'm assuming, is going to have Naz Reid, Dante, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Rob, Terrence Shannon Jr. Yeah, Joe Ingles, another great vet.
I like him. I'm starting to like him even more, and I think
hey, he's back with the squad with Mike and Rudy from the Jazz days. That's kind of a fun little reunion. But yeah, just as your 9th guy or whatever he's gonna be, like I think he can shoot the ball, he's smart, all that. Like you're not asking too much from him, but it was a nice pickup. So yeah, I mean they're looking rock solid. I think just an X factor for them is going to be Jaden McDaniels. Like I think they're going to need more from him offensively. Like they need to juice their offense. We know about the defense; it was best in the league last year. Wouldn't be surprised if it is this year. It's certainly going to be in the top 3 or 4. And it's just offensively, like, how are you going to add a little more juice to that? And I think he's got a lot of untapped upside as an offensive player.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
like I almost thought of him more as that when he was, coming up. Like, and that's, I think really smart people probably were like, no, he's gonna be more of a defender right away. But like, I was always intrigued by the handle and the shooting at like 6'9". So I think he's got more to give offensively. Like, where if he could get up to like 16, 17 points a game, I think that would be huge for them. And then we know about the Ant-Man, like he's probably going to be an MVP candidate. He'll probably be in that conversation. I was just looking at his career playoff stats just a little while ago. He's played 27 playoff games, all before his 23rd birthday, 27.8 points per game on 60% true shooting with like 6 rebounds, 6 assists, like 2 steals and a block. Like that's as like a 22 and under guy in the playoffs. Like he's off to such a crazy start. He's a playoff riser. So you're
just hit his prime. Prime is literally just began.
Yeah, he's like just starting to get into there, and he's already like putting up some serious playoff numbers. So you're in the mix with that guy, and we'll just kind of see like how much different the team really looks without Cat. But like when you look at I tweeted about this actually, where like everyone was saying like, oh, they broke up the team. I don't feel like they broke up the team. I feel like they traded Karl Anthony Towns. The team, they still have their team. They still have their identity. I think actually the guys that they still have, all the other guys, are actually more so embody their identity as this defensive juggernaut of a team more than like Cat does. And I know, and he was very valuable for them without question, but like, especially last season. But I don't think they broke up the team. I think they're still the Wolves. They might be a little worse. They might be a little better. They might look a little different, but they're still that team. They still got their essence. So no, they're going to be in the mix. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm picking them to make the finals, but like they're right there. They did it. Wouldn't surprise me. They're right there.
They are there. They are there. I still trying to figure out them, but I like them. I like them a lot. I
hope Rob has a big role, like, because they could use what he provides. That's another guy like Edey that went to like a perfect situation.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, like his biggest weakness is his lack of size and like his defensive struggles, but you insulate him with the best defense in the NBA. You can hide him. And then you look at the team needs, they need scoring, they need bench scoring, they need a bucket getter, and like that is what he is. So like I think it's a really nice potential mutual fit. So that's going to be like, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that, and I hope he has like a pretty big role where he's like one of the first couple guys off the bench for them.
And he's behind a perfect vet, man. Mike Conley,
mentor Mike. I love it. I love that for him.
Perfect for him.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's head on to New Orleans Pelicans, the team that got swept in the first round. Obviously, the Zion injury kind of derailed the season, and I think that's going to be the main thing when we talk about the Pelicans. Is yes, they lost some guys, but they added DeJounte Murray in the big trade. They lost Dyson Daniels in there. They lost EJ Liddell, but they lost Jonas Valanciunas, who's going to the Wizards. But obviously, to me, I think we can agree the team goes as far as Zion goes, and it looked like it was that way. He looked like he played when he plays. He's an MVP candidate, right? Like he's that good. It's just this man can't finish the season, and he's just never healthy. And to me, that's the biggest thing. Is if he's healthy, I think the Pelicans can be a team that can get to the second round. That type of team. But if he's not healthy, then it's just going to be rinse and repeat all over again. And the BI situation is something we have to monitor too, whether he, no, he's not happy there with the contract. I know he wants to get paid. So what's that situation? But ultimately it's all about Zion. So what we feeling about the Pelicans, man? Are you on the same boat with me?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think if he's healthy, I do think they could not only get to the playoffs, but maybe win a series, because they could run into a team that just has no answer for him. Like, he's that type of dude that's unanswerable for a lot of teams. And I love the Pelicans, man. They're like low key, like my new favorite team. Like I feel like I watched so many of their games last season and even the year before. Like, I've really just grown to love this team. I love the fan base. I love the announcers, and I love a lot of the players on their roster, man. Like, I really do have a lot of love for this team. I'm going to certainly be rooting for them, and I'm very optimistic about what they can be. Like, obviously, they don't have like much of a traditional center. That's the one thing you can't really avoid when you're looking at their roster. But like, they've got a lot of other guys who are.
They drafted Yves Missy from Baylor, but he's a project.
I'm just not going to count on him too much right off the bat. And they've got Carlo Matkovic too, who's looked really good at Summer League. And again, like, I don't know how much he's ready to contribute in his first year in the NBA. I think he is going to be a player, but we'll see. And they got Daniel Tice, who's like, he's relatively proven in the NBA as a capable center, but he's only like 6'8". But you've got a ton of wings. You've got a lot of size at point guard now with DeJounte. And you've got Zion, man. Like, so I think we're going to see a lot of small ball. We're going to see a lot of like Zion at the 5 out there with like Herb and Trey and Brandon Ingram and maybe either McCollum or DeJounte and different configurations like that. Yeah, they had a lot of success last year with the small ball lineups. They ran it a fair amount, and the numbers, if you look at them, are pretty impressive. Like, plus 10 with Zion at the 5 in terms of net rating. Even better than that with, Trey and Herb out there specifically with him. So like, we know it can work. It can't work against everybody. Probably can't work against Jokic. Probably can't work against Embiid. No. Like, those guys will score at will. Like, I get it. But like, there aren't that many of those guys in the NBA. And I think against a lot of teams, a lot of matchups, against a lot of lineups, they can have a lot of success with those small lineups. And then you just kind of have to be able to survive with Tice at center, at least for now, in those tougher, bigger matchups. Obviously, like, it would make sense to add more size, whether that's through a trade or signing some dude, or maybe at the deadline, or maybe in the buyout market even. But like, I think they're going to have a really good regular season if Zion's healthy. If this team's healthy, they're going to be awesome in the regular season. They could win. They won 49 games last year. I think people forget that. But because they were like in the play-in, but I think the West, again, is just brutal. But like, this could be a 50-win team. Like, I think they're gonna have a great regular season, and then it's just a matter of like, do you have enough size to compete against every team in the West in the playoffs? And that's where like you probably do look to add somebody else. But I love what they have. I love their talent. I think Trey Murphy is gonna have a really great season. Big time, like, breakout potential. If you remember, like, heading into last season, there was a lot of hype about him as a most improved candidate and all that. He got hurt, I think, right before training camp. Missed like the first month plus of the season. Took a little while to get right. Didn't really look right until maybe February, March. So like, I think we could see that though, like this season, what we kind of expected to see last season. Herb Jones, all defensive first team. Could be in the DPOY conversation. Who knows? Like, he is like that. And lastly, I just think the DeJounte thing's been a little bit slept on, man. Like, I think that's a pretty big addition to be able to bring him in for Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance. So like, you lose one of your lockdown defenders, you lose a guy that can play some backup center, but you bring in a very good point guard who excels at the things that your team excels at. So like, he can kind of enhance what you already do well, and also open up some more possibilities with those small ball lineups with maybe Zion at the 5. So hey, man, I love the Pels. I'll be rooting for them, and I think they're going to have a great regular season, and could certainly, depending on the matchup, win a playoff series.
I'm with you. Please, Zion, be healthy, man.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man.
I love watching him play basketball, man.
How good did he look down the stretch last season up until that play-in game where he got hurt? Like, the last 3 months of the season, man, he looked like a monster out there. He was playing defense. He was running the floor. He was catching lobs. Like, and he looks great. Like, he looked right now.
Played 65 games too.
Yeah, he had a great season, man. I thought he should have been all NBA. And,
I had him all NBA 13.
Yeah, me too. And look, man, if we get that guy, and he looks like he's in great shape. He's healthy. He looks like he's out for it. So, like, look out, man. Because teams, they can't. He's unstoppable. He's unstoppable.
He's an MVP candidate when he's right.
I agree.
MVP can all NBA first team.
I agree. If they win 50 plus games and he's healthy, he's probably like a top 5 MVP guy. I'm
100% with you. All right, let's go to the team who was the number 1 seed last year, breakout season. The runner up of the MVP, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Man, I like that. Yeah, I like them a lot. I think
man.
this we could talk about. They added my boy Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm still heartbroken that he is not a Knick no more, because that man brought so much energy to New York, and but good for him for getting the bag. You know, I'll never discredit a man for getting the bag, taking the bag, even if it means leaving my squad. But you know, he got the bag. They add Alex Caruso. They re-signed Isaiah Joe on a nice contract. Re-signed Aaron Wiggins. Took both those guys played really good basketball last year. They got rid of Josh Giddey in the trade for Alex Caruso. They had drafted two guys I really like too. Not that they're going to be any may not play, but still guys I like, and Dylan Jones and AJ Mitchell, who I both had first round grades on. So Oklahoma City Thunder, they had the runner up for the MVP. Chet Holmgren was the runner up for Rookie of the Year. Jalen Williams, you know, one of the up and coming wings in the league.
Yeah, they're
yeah. I think so, man. This might be my team that I think they might represent the West, man. I really like this team a lot.
Yeah, bro. I think they might be my pick.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they're the best. I think they're the best team in the league, man. And I'm from Massachusetts. Like, I'm a Celtics fan, and like, but bro, like, I feel like they had. I mean, obviously they were the number one seed in the West, but I feel like they had a perfect offseason. Coming off that, they were the second youngest team in the league, and they get the top seed in the West, and then they have a perfect offseason where, like,
they're ahead of schedule. They weren't supposed to be the number one seed last year. It was supposed to be maybe this year upcoming was the year maybe they make that push, and they just no, we're here now.
Yeah,
we're here now.
Yeah, the last couple seasons they've exceeded all expectations. But yeah, like the one guy who didn't really fit was Giddey, and you move off him and you bring in one of the best defensive players in the NBA, in Caruso, who can fit with anybody, like in any lineup. And then Ihart, who, like, yeah, good for him, man. Like, it's funny. I posted a video at, like, I couldn't sleep last night at like 1 a.m. I just got on my phone. I was looking up Carmelo highlights, and I got into like his Rockets 10-game stint that he played there, and it was a clip where he made a three, and it cut to like Ihart on the bench on the Rockets in like 2018 or whatever, doing like the three to the dome on the bench, and I was like, oh my gosh, like Ihart, like he was just a nobody back then, really, like, and to see how far he's come, you know, that the Knicks tenure did it for him, really, like put him on the map in a major way, and now look at them. But yeah, they're it's actually just preposterous how loaded they are with talent, with defense, with assets, with future picks, with youth. Like, it's just, they're like in a perfect spot, man. It's like really almost unprecedented. That's not to say that they're like a lock to just like win the title or be a dynasty or anything like that. You never know. You know, they got bumped in the second round last year, but I think they're probably I think they're the best team in the league, man. I can't really see it any other way. So I couldn't be any higher on them. And I think they're going to win 60 plus games. I think they could potentially have 3 All-Stars. Yeah, man. I don't know. I could talk about them all day,
They're
man.
so balanced, man. To me, it's the balance. And their bench is going to, I mean, you got Caruso and Cason Wallace come off the bench.
Dogs.
You know, with Wiggins and Isaiah Joe and
maybe Hartenstein. We don't know what they're going to do with their lineups.
Exactly.
Ihart could be coming off the bench, which would be
if he's coming off the bench like that, and that because in certain matchups, they'll probably start, you know, Cam Richard or Jalen, you know, the other Jalen. You know, that'll be depending
maybe
on the
Caruso,
matchups.
like you could go
small ball,
Shea, Caruso,
check a play to 5, obviously,
you go with that. So they've got a lot of flexibility. They've got a coach that's certainly willing to explore that flexibility. Great coach, like I love him. I love everything about this team, man. Like, I can't say a bad thing about them. We'll see what it looks like. You never know, but like right now, heading into the season, like, I really couldn't be higher on. I was super high on them last year, and now it's just like they were a top, I think they were the number 4 defense. And then you add 2 of the best defensive players in the league. Like it's crazy, man. Yeah. It's an embarrassment of riches is what it is.
I think we spoiled our Western Conference picks.
They were gonna be like they have to be, and that's no disrespect to Dallas, like that. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, bro.
Yeah, they're gonna give Dallas a run. I mean, last year I think Dallas they got the better of them because of I think experience.
But they got to go up against Luka. You know what I mean? Like you get into that playoff series against Dallas, and I don't care. I don't care if you won 80 games in the regular season and you have the best on paper team ever. I don't care. You still got to go up against Luka, or you still got to go up against Jokic. So like that's the beauty of the NBA is like at the end of the day, you still gotta go toe to toe with one of those dudes. So it's not a given, but like,
no, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. They still got to face some dogs, but they got a squad though. All right, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. They got swept in the first round. Disappointing with Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal did not look like the Bradley Beal of old. But they re-signed Bobo, re-signed Royce O'Neal. They drafted Ryan Dunn in the first round, supposed to be a defensive stopper. Added Tyus Jones really late for peanuts. Can't believe that. I still can't believe that happened. So the Phoenix Suns, man, what's the feel, man? They're another team where I think their range is pretty all over the place, where it could be.
Yeah, it be based on health.
Championship,
you know what I mean? Like there's no way.
Or it could be.
Yeah. They have a high ceiling for sure. Very high.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it all clicks, kind of like we thought it would last year, maybe. But with Tyus Jones now, just like a steady hand.
Yeah, that's exactly what they needed.
That's a big pickup. And they also got Monte Morris, who's like along the same lines as Tyus Jones, just a steady hand, very low turnovers, famously low turnovers. Both of those guys. So like, yeah, I think their ceiling is extremely high. Like if they ended up cracking that top 3 or 4 in the West, I wouldn't be surprised if like all those guys are healthy. I mean, talent wise, in terms of at least like, their top end, like their starters, they're up there with anybody, like it goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
But if KD, misses 40 games, it might be a different story, but I think they'll be better than they were last season. Like overall, like if they, maybe around the same win total, but like if they get to the playoffs, I don't think they're going to get swept again if they're healthy. They're in that big group for me in the West. Like they really are. They're in that part of that group, maybe on the higher end, but they're in there. Where I'd probably have them ahead of like, I'd probably have them ahead of Golden State and Houston if I was like projecting win totals, probably ahead of the Pels, maybe right next to the Pels in that range. But yeah, they're it's a tough one to predict, man. But all I will say is that I really liked the offseason that they had in terms of adding Monte Morris and Tyus Jones, because I think that's exactly what they needed last year. And one thing I'll say is like it won't happen probably, but if Brad Beal could embrace a 6-man role and they wanted to go that direction, I think it would make a lot of sense. I think he would kill off the bench, and you go with a little more of like a traditional starting 5 with like, Book at the
I'm
2,
with you on that.
Book at the 2, Tyus at the 1. But I don't know what it's going to look like. But the talent is there. As long as KD holds up and he's still KD, he sure looked like it in the Olympics. So same with Book. They both look great. They might they get a little Olympic boost. But
maybe maybe the
and a new coach as well. We should probably mention, right? Coach Bud is there now, huh?
Who's an offensive coach?
Yeah, that's something. That's something you get. You got a new point guard, a new coach. A
little bit deeper bench. Maybe a healthier Beal maybe helps out too a lot.
Yeah,
playing in more of his natural role. Him and Booker. Booker was playing a lot of points, so you want him more naturally as an off the ball and stuff. No pun intended. But you want him in that role. So I like this roster construction more than I liked last year. But they're still a team we got to see how they look. Grayson off the bench. They got Josh Okogie. They added Mason Plumlee. Added some big man depth.
That's a good pickup too. I forgot about Mason Plumlee. Yeah, they did. They had a solid little offseason, man.
Yeah,
like,
they did all right.
Plumlee, the guards. Yeah,
They did all right. So I think they'll be better, and they're going to be a lot more tougher.
It's a dangerous team, man. Yeah. Like, would you really be shocked if they just like won 55 games if they're healthy? Like, I wouldn't.
Didn't they win 49? What?
I think they won 49 last year. Yeah. 49 Pelicans. Yeah.
In an up and down season, they won 49 games because they played good late in the season. But
yeah, they could sleepwalk into probably 50 wins if they're healthy.
Okay. Yeah. We could definitely. All right. I'm not going to get into deep with the Portland Trailblazers. The Spurs, we know it's Wemby Mania, and Utah. Won't get into them, but we'll talk about Sacramento to cap off the Western Conference preview. They added DeMar DeRozan. They're another team. They were in the play-in. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox is there. He's criminally underrated.
Yeah.
Criminally underrated. Like, this man is their absolute hooper. They added Devin Carter, who I thought was going to be a big piece. He's going to be out with the shoulder. I thought that would be a big boost for them. They got rid of Davion Mitchell, no Duarte, Harrison Barnes trade to the Spurs. Re-signed Malik Monk, who had an absolute monster year last year for them, and re-signed Alex Len. So how we feel about Sacramento Kings like there? I think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, they're right there, man. Again, 46 wins last year, and they didn't get in the playoffs. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, you essentially replace Harrison Barnes with DeRozan. Like, I don't know. That's another one, kind of like the DeJounte one with New Orleans, where like I don't think people are excited enough about this. Like, you just added DeMar DeRozan to that squad with Sabonis and Fox and Monk and Keegan Murray. Like, DeRozan is serious. Like, that's
he's clutch.
He
got two of them now.
That's not nothing. Like, that is not
that's
nothing,
something,
man.
That really is something,
man. To have two of those guys, and then like, and just to have like, and he's like kind of, I think exactly what they need, like another guy that can just get it. Because other than Fox and like Monk, who might be coming off the bench again, like, I don't know, like you need another guy that can go get you a bucket. Right. Exactly. Like, especially in crunch time. And like DeMar is that dude, consummate professional, pro. Game really hasn't declined at all, but I think he really feels a need for them. If you're trying to win now, I think it's a great move. I mean, the only thing that I've heard people push back a little bit maybe is like Keegan Murray's like development and like his ascension. Like, is he gonna, no, he's maybe not gonna do too much more than he did last season if DeMar's there and they're fully healthy, but he's obviously going to start and have a huge role for them, and maybe not do as much creation as he might have done, like, had they not picked up DeMar, like, but he'll be doing what he does best, shooting threes. Like, he's an elite shooter. So I love the balance of this team. I love the construction of the roster, really. The defense is obviously going to be the main question here with this team. They're not going to be a good defensive team. Like, they'll be bottom. They'll be bottom 10. Bottom 10. Like, they'll be in the 20s probably for defensive rating. So that's the concern. But they might score 130 points a game. Like, they're going to outscore almost everybody they play. So like, yeah, they're going to give up a 120, but they might still outscore you. So they're just like, they're going to be, I think, a top 5 offense for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how DeRozan fits in and like how he kind of changes the complexion of the team. But they've got a lot of continuity. They've got a lot of identity. They've had 2 really successful seasons in a row, in my opinion. Even if they got bumped in the play-in last year, they still won 46 games. When we think about the history of this franchise the last couple decades, like, to make the playoffs and then win 46 the next year, like, they're kind of on a roll. So
they're getting the culture back. It's kind of like what they're doing in New York. Like, these, they've been losing for a long time. So they need to
great
change the
fan
culture.
base, just like the Knicks, like one of the best fan bases in the league, one of the best crowds in the league. They've got a great arena. Bringing back Monk was huge. I really thought they were going to lose him. I thought Orlando was going to swipe him up. But
would have been a nice fit.
Oh, he was the dream fit for that team. They got KCP. Monk would have been, oh my God! But
Monk would have been,
But for Sacramento to bring him back, man, like, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about this team. Again, they're in that bunch. They're somewhere in there, like probably between like Houston and New Orleans for me, like right in that mix. Like, they're a playoff team. They're a playoff caliber team. There's no question. But the West is just brutal again, where you could win 46 and miss the playoffs. So I don't know if they're a 50-win team, but it wouldn't surprise me. And so much of this is just going to come down to health. And like they've got that on their side, I think. Like they're largely a pretty durable team. Like
they've been durable, yeah.
Yeah, De'Aaron's had some things, but like all in all, like I'm not too worried about their health. And if they can stay healthy, I think they'll be right there. But yeah, it's gonna be an explosive offense, though, man. They're gonna score a lot of points.
They're gonna be fun. They're gonna be fun to watch. They're definitely gonna be a league pass team.
I hope Devin Carter gets back, though. You mentioned him. It looks like maybe All-Star break around there.
I would think so, because that's someone that's gonna help them defensively big time.
Keon Ellis, we didn't mention, is another guy.
Keon's gonna help them
defensively. Like they're gonna be counting. I think he's probably gonna start. I think they're just gonna need his defense out there. Keegan Murray's a really underrated defender. So like they do have a couple guys who can guard with Keon and Keegan Murray, and Devin Carter when he gets back. They added Orlando Robinson, who
I liked him come out of the draft.
Kind of a nice backup center. I think. Like I've always liked him. I think he could be a nice pickup.
I think he could take minutes away from Alex Len. Alex Len will probably get a few minutes just to.
I think he might be better than Alex Len. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna take some minutes from. But yeah, I can see Keon maybe. Because when they get started, Horter, help to come off the bench might be a better option for them. If you could add Keon this or for some defensive, for defensive.
Would you go? Fox, Keon, DeRozan, Murray, Keegan, Sabonis, and then Herter and Monk. Bench.
Yeah,
they've got
Trey Lyles.
Yeah, they've got a little squad, man.
And then, like I said, Devin Carter. When he comes back, I could see. I thought Devin Carter would be the starting two. I thought he was that good. I thought I was really high on him come out of the draft. I thought he was that good. I thought he would be the starting two. Horter coming off. But I think they'll get Keon. I think Keon starts. Horter come off the bench, but they're gonna score points, man. They're gonna light the beam up a lot this year.
Hell yeah.
Light the beam up a lot this year.
I love
like I said, man. We're the Trailblazers, man. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough for Chauncey, man. I don't know if Chauncey make last the season.
They're a team. I mean, I lived in Portland for like 8 years. I had season tickets like during the Brandon Roy years. Like I'm a Blazers fan. Like they're one of my favorite teams. So I will be watching the games. I'll be paying attention. I'll be keeping an eye on these young guys: Donovan Clingan, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe. They got Denny Avdia from the Blazers.
Yeah, Avdia's a good player.
So they've got some pretty interesting guys that could they're going to be one of the worst teams in the West. Like there's no avoiding that. But they could be scrappy, and we're just looking for growth and kind of again, like prioritizing, like kind of like Houston. Like, okay, we've got all these young guys. Let's see who really rises to the top and who we might not be with long term.
And hopefully Scoot finished because he finished off strong. Hopefully he continues that. I think Clingan will help. I think they're going to get rid of their bigs with Ayton and Robert Williams. They'll move one of them.
They have a lot of like pretty good players. It's just they
got interesting players.
Oh, they might have been a playoff team like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Even less, even like 8 years ago. But like just now, there's no way. But
yeah, it's gonna be a tough year. But
I like their future though.
Yeah, it could be bright, especially if Scoot continues to develop. Because obviously,
I believe in him.
And San Antonio, it's Victor Wembanyama. They got some nice pieces too, but Victor Wembanyama,
taking over the league.
He might. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the running for being the best player in the league already. But
I've got him top 10 heading into the season, and I think he's going to be top 5 by the end of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people are like, I think
best player in the league.
I don't know if anyone's better than him, but that's hard to say with like when you have Luka and Jokic, but like he'd be like right behind those main guys, and that's year 2. Like by the end of his year 2, like I really think
it's insane.
Yeah, I do wonder how bad they can be if he's healthy and playing, 30 plus minutes a game. Like, I wonder just how bad they can be because, like, he's that good. So I was talking about that on another pod. Like, can you really bottom out with him playing like completely? I don't know.
Yeah,
they might try. They might try, but
they're gonna try because the Cooper flag.
Yeah, but he's gonna be doing his thing.
He's special. And Utah,
my favorite player to watch. Utah,
they re-signed Lauri Markkanen, and they got a lot of young guys too that I'm really interested in.
I can't believe nobody went out and got Markkanen. Like, just gave
up, right?
Like somebody like Golden State or even San Antonio. Like, those were a couple teams that were talking about.
Because you can't trade for him till the deadline.
Now you can't.
Deadline anyway. So, like, I'm surprised Golden State.
They would have had to give up Kuminga and Podziemski probably to do it, but I don't know.
It was probably too rich for them. But they got some good young Taylor Hendricks. The kid from UCF last year, I like him a lot.
I like Keontae a lot.
Keontae George is that he's going to be fun to watch this year. If there's anyone that I'm really looking forward to is Keontae. But they got pieces that I think are going to be.
Oh yeah, they're going to be. I think they're going to be really good in a couple years. They're gonna build something, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah, they got still a lot of pieces oven. It's still in the oven. They got some good pieces that I wouldn't be surprised with, but they got some good young guys that I like a lot. That Kyle Filipowski, he dropped to the second round, so they got some good young pieces. All right, a few more things before I let you go, Brett. Appreciate you hopping on the show. Just who is your breakout player out west? Top breakout player. I know we talked about a few guys, but who do you think is going to be the breakout guy?
I'll go Kuminga. I'll go Kuminga. Yeah, like I said, he would probably be my MIP pick, and obviously a bunch of directions we could go. I think we mentioned a lot of the guys that could potentially break out. A couple of those Rockets guys wouldn't surprise me at all. But I'll go with Kuminga because like I said, I think they're going to need him to take that kind of leap. Yeah, and 100%. So that'd be the guy because he can. He's a 6'8", freak athlete. The mid-range jumper was really starting to come together last season. He can handle the ball. It's more like his decision making is kind of the question mark with him, but like he's great off the drive. He's a great cutter. He's obviously like an elite finisher. Defensive, the tools are all there. Like he's kind of got it all, man. And like if he can I think having a consistent role and the full wholehearted trust of the coaching staff and his teammates, which I don't think he's quite had up until this point. I think if he gets that, it's going to go a long way toward him just being more sure of himself on the court. And I think that's going to lead to better decision-making, better processing, and everything's going to kind of come into place. So like, yeah, he's a major breakout candidate in my mind.
I'm with you, man. I'm all aboard. I think he's going to be MIP too. I'm with you on there. Who's the top rookie? Who's the top rookie for out west?
Man, let me see. I'm probably go. It's between. Trying to think. I think it's between Edey and Reed Shepherd for me. I will go. Like long term, I think I'm gonna go Reed Shepherd, but for this coming season, I think I might lean Edey. I've become a believer in the fit with Ja. I think Ja's going to make that dude look like a lot better than he might even be. I just think it's such a good fit. Like maybe I'm too optimistic. It could go one of two ways. But I wasn't the biggest Edey guy when I was watching him in college, but just seeing a glimpse of him in summer league and just thinking about what other bigs have looked like with Ja and like that the way they can benefit each other mutually, like. I'll probably go in terms of like impact this year. I think I would lean Edey. I think Klingen's going to have a really good season for Portland. I think Rob Dillingham in Minnesota is going to have a nice season as like a microwave guy off the bench. But I'll lean Edey because I think he's going to be the starting center on a really good team, on a playoff team. So I think that gets him there for me. But long term, I might go Shepherd. I think he's got some.
I think Shep's going to be good. I like Stephon Castle too.
Yeah, man. More of a long-term play though, right? Like this going to be a little bit of a learning curve.
It is going to definitely be a learning curve for him, but I think long-term I like him. Yeah. I like him a lot.
I do too.
Edey's going to be solid. Klingen to me, I said this in a bunch of shows. I said Atlanta should have took Klingen at number 1. If they wanted to keep Trey happy and make life easier for him, there's nothing more easier for him. I mean, look what he did with Capella.
Yeah.
just easy, get into the bolt and just lob it up to Capella.
Up until
easy.
a couple days before the draft, a lot of people were saying they were going to take Klingon, and I wouldn't have blamed them.
That was my route. I thought they should have went that way, but they decided to go the other way. But I like Klingon.
If they didn't have Ayton and Time Lord and Reed, if they didn't have all those centers, like if he was like in the Edey spot, like where we already know he's going to be the starting. Even more, Edey's not even a lock. I think he's going to be, but he's not like a lock. But if we knew Klingon was going to be the starter, I would probably say he's in for a pretty big year. But I think
he'll get there. I think Time Lord and I think Ayton are going to be gone.
I think they'd love to trade Time Lord, and they just obviously don't need all those guys. And if they could move off Ayton, I think they would. So I'm with you, man. I'm excited. As a Blazers fan, I'm very excited about Klingon.
We'll see what happens there. All right, Western Conference, the last thing, Western Conference matchup.
Finals.
Western Conference Finals.
Okay. OKC.
OKC. You know, I think we
I'm gonna lean
at that.
Obviously, it comes down to who plays who in the second round. We can't possibly know who's gonna finish with what seed, but like just off gut feeling, like I probably would go. So I'm gonna lean Dallas again, slightly over Denver. I'm gonna go OKC Dallas.
That'll be a good one. That would be a very fun match.
I could just as easily go Denver on that. That one's tough, but I'm gonna just slightly lean. I think Dallas is a little bit stronger than Denver heading into the season, so that's all I really have to go by. And Luka and Jokic are the same. Like they would wash each other out in my mind. Like where the Jokic factor, right? Where like Denver is gonna be so like that's almost how I feel about Luka. Like there's just this Luka factor too. So in that sense, magic, man. Yeah, coming off the finals appearance, I'll go OKC Dallas for my Western Conference Finals prediction.
Yeah, I think I might be with you on that. I think OKC is definitely going to get there, and Dallas, man, maybe this is crazy, but the Lakers, man, part of me thinking the Lakers too. I think LeBron's last like real shot to make that one last push to get another one. I could see it happening.
How cool would that be though, man? Like with this, I'm all in on the LeBron and Bronny stuff. By the way, like I know people are like mad about it and stuff, but I love it. Like inject that into my veins. I think it's the coolest story, man. Like I think it's so dope that
it really is.
That he's
if you get behind if you forget the I know people don't like LeBron James for whatever reason. You don't like LeBron James, whatever. I don't really care. I think a lot of it is silly, but just the story itself. This doesn't like this never happened in NBA history. Like it's happened in baseball with I think the Griffeys play with each other, but like this is beautiful.
Yeah,
you're getting to play with his son. Call it nepotism, whatever. I don't care. Listen, it happens in the real world every day. Half of the people that are arguing about this got their job because of their dad.
Facts.
We need to stop it. Like, hey, if you can get in the door, if you can get in the door from your pops, hey.
Facts.
And so hey, good for you.
It's not like the kid can't play.
He can poop.
It's not like he can't play. Yeah. Like, you know, like he's nice. Like, okay, would he have gotten drafted? Maybe not. But like he was right there. Like he
would have got invited. He would have been a summer league.
He had a cardiac arrest, and you know what I mean? Like he had a little bit of a setback there, I would say. But
and he played at USC. But disaster at USC. Yeah, that team was a disaster.
It was, man. If you ever watched them, like they were rough. They
were nasty to watch.
But hey, before that all happened, nobody would have been surprised if he was going to get drafted because that was the conversation he was in. So I'm happy for the kid. He came back from cardiac arrest, made the NBA, and it's such a dope story. So I wish them success. I really do. Like I'm gonna be rooting for them in that way for sure.
Yeah. It's a great story and. The NBA season is almost here, Brett.
Let's go. Friday, we get preseason games.
We get preseason basketball this weekend. So we're almost here, man. It's October. It's the best time of the year for sports. We got everything going on, but the NBA season is upon us. And Brett, my man, that is our Western Conference preview. I appreciate your time, man. This was a lot of fun. You know, man, this was, like I said, a blast. Before we sign off, man, you're doing a lot of cool stuff. You're a meme. You're this, man. You're on this. They're showing you tweets on there. You're doing a lot of cool stuff. So like I said, man, happy to have you on the show. So anything you want to promote before we sign off?
Not really, man. I've got a couple of things kind of in the works for this season, but for now, y'all can just follow me on X, man. UsherNBA, UsherNBA, and that's about it. But man, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always great talking to you. A great hoop mind, and I feel like we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, and it's always a good vibe. And yeah, let's definitely do it again soon, man, for sure. Whether it's on here or something I might start up, but we'll get together and talk ball soon, man, because it's always a pleasure, man, for real.
For sure, man. That's why I like having you on the show. That's why you were my first thought about when I started to get things ramped up. Because last season I didn't really do a lot of hoop content. You know, like I said, I was busy with work, and it was just easier to just go on other people's podcasts. You know, because you know how it is to with the editing and all. But this season, I'm going full. But I got my schedule, better schedule this year. So with work, so gonna get full in with basketball content. And the first person I thought of was you. So I said, you know, let's go in and let me see if he wants to hop on. And you said yes. So I appreciate you for coming on, man. Definitely gonna do this more. We got we're gonna have a lot to talk about this season. So definitely we'll have you back on as a guest on the Off the Ball podcast. But appreciate you, Brett, for joining the show. Appreciate everyone who's listening. Make sure to download on Apple, Spotify. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube to subscribe and give it a like, comment how you feel about, you know, the Western Conference, who you think is going to be the top seeds, who you think is coming out the West, your top rookies, your most improved players coming out the West. Let us know in the comment section below. Like I said, make sure to follow Brett on X. He's one of the better hoop minds out there, so make sure you're following him. If you're not already, you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod, talking all things basketball, college basketball, the grassroots scene, everything. So make sure to follow me there. But on that note, Off the Ball podcast, appreciate everyone at the Off the Ball Network for helping out producing the show. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care, peace and love.